trying to do it as long as possible, but then walks through the door. We'll call to order the regularly scheduled August board meeting for the Solon Community School District Board of Directors. For the last time, it is the mission of the Solon Community School District to engage each and every student in rigorous and relevant learning experiences, maximizing achievement through exceptional teaching. Chris, you want to call the roll?
Wolf. Here. Gillespie.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Coons, I know is on his way. Absent is Rokas and Ben Campman are
Coons
both
is walking up the stairs. I'm pretty sure that.
Okay.
New to the agenda this month, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I told Adam that's the board vice president's responsibility to lead that, so I'm not sure that's in policy anywhere, but it works. Thank you everyone for being here on this nice end of the summer evening before school starts next week. Celebrations of achievement.
Yeah, Josh and I were, the admin team were discussing this earlier. We wanted to make note of something we've been striving to achieve for a number of years, being very intentional about it. Last year, 22-23 school year, we hired 17 teachers new to the district. And as you know, the goal is to not only recruit, but to retain. And we've been very intentional about supporting those teachers, helping them be successful to increase that chance of retention. And of those 17 new to the district, we have 16 returning this year. So Josh, you want to, I know we've been very focused on with our teacher leadership. We've got professional partners that we hook up with those teachers. Our coaches spend a lot of time in their classrooms early on when they arrive. The way we have our district set up with collaborative learning teams, Thursday afternoons, they become very cohesive and supportive. So there's just a lot of structures in place that we're pretty excited about and proud of the fact that 16 of the 17 from last year are returning this year. So.
Very good. District reports focus on
Learning.
Yeah, so this summer we had taken a little bit of break because of COVID and everything that was going on there. I think the year that COVID actually hit and we shut down, the plan was to go to another PLC institute. And so we've been on pause for a while, and this is the first summer in a few years that we've sent a pretty large crew to a PLC institute. This summer, end of June, we sent about, I think, 22 or 23 staff members, administrators and teachers up to Minneapolis. And there was, what I heard was it was a really successful experience again, and brought back some new ideas. Principals can make some comments, but Dawn has agreed to, we kind of put a shout out any teachers who went with, if you're not too busy, I know it's beginning of the year, to just come and share your experience from that PLC Institute at the end of June in Minneapolis. So principals, Dawn, you're welcome to share anything you learned.
Should I stand? I don't know.
Be comfortable.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Dawn Posacani. I'm one of the science teachers up at the high school. And first I want to share my appreciation. Just thank you for supporting the PD, because it was just a lot of fun. In addition to bringing back new ideas and things like that, there was trivia night. There were people playing cards, in the lobby. And, when you get opportunities to do unique things like that with your staff, it just makes you closer, and that helps the culture of our school. So I just want to throw that out. In terms of learning, I wanted to just share my favorite session. So there were multiple sessions and lots of really passionate people about education in the PLC conference, both presenting and in those rooms. Everybody just has such a positive attitude about what's going on and stuff. But my favorite of the sessions that I went to was led by Maria Nielsen, and it was about engagement strategies. So how can we get 100% participation in our classrooms instead of like me calling on a single student? How can I better engage more students, or is, you know, hopefully in all of those? And it was just a lot of fun because she was modeling some of those activities, getting us up and moving. So there were verbal things, there were written things, there were action things. And one of my favorites was $25,000 pyramid game that we played. So, I mean, I didn't win the real money, but it was still pretty fun. So it was really great.
Good.
Go ahead.
I would echo what Don said and just thank you for allowing us to go. SIS was fortunate enough to take all but 4 of our teachers with us. So our special ed weren't able to go, and then there were 2 classroom teachers that couldn't go. But we had a group of 9 or 10 of us that were there, including myself. And it was a really powerful time for our building, being the smaller building in the district, just to have that opportunity to continue to build relationships with them. Really talking through our culture and some of the things that we are looking to impact for kids, as well as the way we work together with one another, resetting like what are our team norms and how does that develop and look for us in our building. And then also just looking at what are some of those bite-sized pieces that we can bring back. And so this year we're really looking at using the 4 questions of PLC, but really focusing in on the assessment component, so that we are thinking really thoughtfully about what is it we really are looking for kids to take away from this, and how that looks in particularly, because that's been an area for us. And so this was really a great time for us to talk through some of that, and put some actionable things in place for this school year. And like Don said, we had the opportunity to do meals together and just play games and whatnot. So it was a unique opportunity for us.
In addition to the sessions themselves, the learning throughout the day, we had incorporated into our day after we were at the conference, we met by building to talk, what was your learning today and how can that impact what we do? So that was really powerful. And as a result, we were really focused on a reboot of our PLC process. We were able to sit down each evening and talk about how can we do that. And it really structured what our in-service workshop looks like this fall, but also we just had enough nuggets that that's our Thursday launch. Really throughout the whole year, we came up with enough things to, you know, teachers might already know this, but we need to replant that seed or water the soil, so to speak. So a little bit of it.
Yeah, and I think when you bring a new team, so like the science team, there's some veteran teachers, but they've never been to a professional learning communities conference. And so with that, there's a ton of new learning, but also just reiterating the work that we've done and celebrating that. And I think that's really important, because when you think about a PLC, it isn't a meeting, it isn't a time of day, it isn't one group of people, it's truly a group of people who have a relentless focus on building capacity for our kids. And we do that with collective efficacy and belief. And so those types of experiences, just like probably in your profession, when you go to something like that, it's a different type of vibe, right? And that's what I think is important for our teachers to be able to do. Maybe not every year, but definitely throughout the course of their career. So thank you.
And thanks, Josh, for helping with these.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, you guys thank us, but thank you for going, right? Because it's time away from family and, you know, just gotta carve out time and schedule. So I'm glad I remember my dad would go stuff like that. It's, hey, you get a bond and relationships and do things as a group. So it's good.
I think what's interesting about this particular conference is that when we ask somebody, it's almost guaranteed a yes, because the word is out on how valuable it is. And so if we say, in my case this time, if we say, let's take a math team, you can almost count on everybody on that math team saying yes. That's awesome.
Well, I think it's just listening to you guys. Kids are always the focus. And sometimes we get in school, the details of your everyday like processes and all those things kind of like overtake that. And then it's nice to kind of come back and you guys go together and engagement and, you know, how we're going to test them and how we, you know what I mean, all those sort of things, and then able to speak to each other and it taking a different route each time, everybody sees everything through a different lens, so, I mean, we're more than happy to provide opportunities like this, because in the long run, it benefits our students, and we'll keep doing it.
You. Davis admin reports back to school.
Yeah, so back to school this week was a busy week, and we'll finish off tomorrow with a busy day. First 2 days this week, Monday and Tuesday, we had our new teachers back. We've got 7 first-year teachers, 6 first-year teachers in the district this year, full of excitement and enthusiasm, and we have some new teachers as well who have a little bit more experience, which is good to see. But those 2 days were packed, but at the same time, I think we did a really good job of building in some work time. So it wasn't so much of a fire hose, because a lot of times that's what happens in these new teachers, which we just keep firing and firing and firing away at different things. But I think the way that we built that time during those 2 days was beneficial. We'll know a little bit more probably as we have more conversations with those new teachers. I met with the mentors, the professional partners this week to do some orientation with them for those first year teachers. Our first mentor mentee meeting is next Thursday. We'll kind of dive into some new teacher curriculum. Wednesday was PLC facilitator training day. So it's those PLC facilitators who help guide and lead their CLTs. During the year, we had some learning Wednesday morning around collective efficacy, ensuring that we have some alignment between what we're doing as a district and looking at the goals, priorities there, and the building goals, and then the CLT team goals, ensuring that alignment is happening. Discuss collective efficacy, did some research around that, and really emphasize, there are 4 main questions of the PLC. The first one is ensuring that all kids are able to know and able. What's the question? Jeez. Thank you. What students what we want students to know and be able to do. I've said it like 20 times over the week. But and then the second question, which really I was trying to emphasize, is how do we know that students are learning what we expect them to learn, and starting to just have that more of a conversation on data and tools that we use to examine data decisions. So that'll be kind of an emphasis, and I know that's something that you brought back from the PLCs as well, or the PLC Institute as well. So, and then today was the teacher quality day, which was a non-contract day, but an extra day where they can get paid to come and engage in professional development related to goals and priorities in the building and district. And then tomorrow we launch with all district welcome back with a breakfast with Hills Bank, and they're catering through Rizika's. So that'll be actually pretty tasty.
Eggs and sausage and all the works. Yeah.
And Davis will give his welcome back message, and then we'll have various meetings throughout the day tomorrow, and through the next few days there'll be some meetings, whole building meetings, and some student specific meetings, as well as work time intertwined of those days. So really excited. I'm also excited to be filling in for Holly while she's on maternity leave for the first 8-10 weeks, somewhere in there is what I counted. So exercising my principal chops a little bit again and getting in there, and so I'm excited for the challenge and be a part of it. So,
I'm waiting to see you negotiate with the first grader.
I've done it already before. I don't know.
There's not much negotiation.
Yeah. Superintendent report.
Yeah, just quickly, we're transitioning to a new 4-8 vocal teacher who she's trial by fire just right away. We've got that Savannah Banana trip. She's done a great job communicating with Jesse and details, and she's been communicating with kids and families. I think, Zach, you're going to be part of that too, kind of help. Yeah, with that. It's the 25th, Friday the 25th. They've got Windsor buses that'll take the kids up, departing about 3 o'clock and anticipated return about 11:30. So should be a fun day for them. She's pretty excited about it. I talked to her, so.
We'll
Speaking
talk
of,
to her when she's back.
yeah, yeah.
She knows she can't lose any of the kids.
Right, well, exactly,
Exactly.
yeah. Speaking of transportation, we, with our ELDT grant, our entry-level driver training grant that we got, we trained 5 new drivers with Kirkwood Partnership this year. 2 of them are coaches that will help drive activity routes when they coach. And then we've got 2 of them that we trained will be daily route drivers.
Nice.
And so we've gone from 9 routes to 10, which alleviates some pressure on some of those buses. So it was really best case scenario this fall. We didn't think we would get there. So one of our daily route drivers is a former grad, as we've talked about. Michael Brokehammer will be driving for us. We're excited. And Chris is going to join him for the first 3-4 days on his bus, just to kind of help acclimate him to the route and everything. So with that, we're excited. And then we've got 3 associates that got their Class D license and will be transporting van. They'll be driving vans for us. And this gives them, we gave them a 50-cent raise on top of what they receive, plus they'll get more hours. So it gives them a little boost too. Josh had mentioned teacher quality. We were just having kind of a quick debrief. A lot of positive feedback from our principals as far as the teacher engagement, participation, and it was truly volunteer because it was a non-contractual day. And we believe that we reached our goal of 95% or greater attendance. So which was great. And speaking of staff, we feel we're in a great position. You know, we've heard across the state, the teacher shortage, all the vacancies that still exist today going into the year. We've got all of our teaching positions filled, and we've got 9 associate positions filled. So we've done a great job filling our need here, and we feel good about where we're at as a district. And Josh had mentioned the new teachers, the 12 new ones. Their experience ranges from first year to 20 years. So we've got a nice mix in there.
Well, I think there's so much stuff back there, but I think kind of our ability to bring training bus drivers in-house, and then kind of broadening our horizons on, allowing associates and all these things to be part of our community and drive our kids, and that certainly helps during this difficult time. And I think, just talking about some of our future things, having that classroom in the bus barn and being able to continue as we do some of that stuff is pretty exciting in the transportation world. It's silly. But, I can only imagine if we only had bus drivers, or if we were talking about having people have to do double routes and all that stuff, which was really great for kids. And now we can actually have an extra route, and then we also have like backup people for picking people up in a van, and it's really good for our community.
Well, you gotta champion that, because the creativity to just come up with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just our van fleet. You drive by, it's amazing how many we have, but it's for those that don't have it and can drive, it just takes the burden off the bus route. So good stuff.
Board committee updates, capital projects committee.
Well, we can talk a little bit about facilities. Do you want us to?
Yeah.
I'll start off and let you. So we met with softball, with Brian Heichens, and he wasn't there, but I talked to him before. Casey was there, Greg Wilson, and then we had head coach Brad and some other people that kind of filled in. And anyway, just safety. Looking at the facility over there, you start looking at the lights and electrical and maybe some opportunity for storage and some sheds. Really the big thing that they were concerned with was just safety. You got one of the best playing surfaces around, but baseball had an upgrade not that long ago. Storm kind of helped get that kind of put together. So I'll let you kind of talk about what we asked from them going forward.
Yeah, they kind of gave us a walkthrough and showed us what their needs are, and we just kind of, we have kind of a summary that we got from them, but just kind of asked that they give us kind of a list of priorities and maybe some estimates or ways that they can help out, or donated time, or don't, you know, what ways can we work with them to get the most for our money? And then try to figure out what we do need, but there are definitely some safety issues there. That I think we need to
I think you're gonna talk to Musco, right? And
Yeah.
come down.
Brian said he was gonna call that.
Yeah, I think he said he was reaching out to him and scheduling a time, so. I mean, part of it, you have storms and lights and everything, and just making sure even just the lighting, is appropriate. You know, some of the boxes and things get hot or stuff gets blown, switches, so, yeah, I think they brought up some really good things, and, again, we wanna take pride in our facilities, and that's just gonna be one thing that we might have to start looking at, and they're gonna come kind of like baseball did and bring some ideas that they.
A side note, I remember Coach Sobers turning on the lights at the old football field and catching himself on fire. Minnesota Vikings. On fire. So, yeah, obviously, I say that somewhat joking, but yes, I know how some of these facilities not behave.
Well, and we've been fortunate as a district with a lot of things, people in the community help out or volunteer time and effort, and, you know, some things done, you know, maybe not the code is what code is now, and, you know, some of that we just need to make sure we're, you know, keeping up on, safety, big word.
Yep.
So.
As far as our other projects that, from the bond, we've got on Monday, those plans for intermediate school will actually go out, and they'll be put on whatever site that all the contractors look at. We're gonna, the due date for those bids, the 19th, we're gonna award that bid on September 22nd. It seems early. And we've made some contacts. Our architect's kind of doing this a little early because we don't plan to move in equipment or allow equipment to move in until probably March or April. So it's like, gosh, well, then do we need to bid so early? Is that going to be the best window? And so we called a couple big contractors that we've worked with before, and they said, we'd have to agree with your architect for anything, the delay in supplies. And if you can get that bid early, get it awarded, then they can start getting those supplies in place, because there is a delay on some of those components that you're purchasing and things like that. So we feel good about that. Again, that's on track. Those plans will go out on Monday. The next project, we've been looking at that transportation project, and with the goal to move in July. So a year from now. So we've got some time. And what we're working on is breaking that project apart a little bit so that we can get more local to get access to that project. The far south bay in that, there's 2 doors, a big tall one, then there's 3 middle ones, and then there's a south bay that the sign company, that will be that bay itself. The other bays will be kind of left alone. That bay will be, we'll close off that overhead door. It'll be a big glass vestibule, and that will be reception, office area, classroom, bathrooms, and a lounge for the people that work out there and the drivers. And so, you know, that's a project that really a lot of local contractors could tackle that one. Heating and cooling, local contractors could tackle that one. And so that's kind of what we're working on right now with that project, with the design in that. Again, with the goal to move in July. And then we have a civil engineer came down to meet with us to go through the specs on the replacing the turf on the field. And what we're looking at there is graduation, Memorial Day, and then start. And it's a 4 to 6 week process. So bad weather or this or that, 6 weeks would put us at July 16th for completion. And that's how the specs are being written. Completion of July 16th for that.
The football camp doesn't start till after.
Yeah. And other than that, we, you know, the other projects on that bond was indoor activity and central office space. And we've been having since May, June, we've been having conversations, monthly conversations with the city. I know when we were talking about these projects, the city's also talked about, you know, their need for some indoor space. So the conversations are just around needs, and are there areas that we could pool resources together, what that might look like, to either rule it out or rule the possibility in. And that's kind of where we're at now. We've identified that we're going to need and the activities that we want to do in our indoor facility, going to be around 21,000 square feet. The city, they have some indoor facility need. Their needs are different than ours. And so they need 20,000 square feet. So, you know, we've talked about, gosh, you know, where do you find space for 40,000 square feet? Is it feasible? Is it efficient? Is there space for both our buildings to be by each other but separate, share parking, things like that? And so really great conversations that we're having right now. And these projects are at the end of ours, so we've got plenty of time to continue conversation and really be planful and intentional in this.
Yeah, I mean, made this error maybe once before. We want to control that.
Absolutely.
Just because our future work is unknown, and sometimes, like, we're growing, we don't have a lot of places to grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't want to give up any situations. Yeah. So, and I agree, collaboration is the key, but
yeah.
So it's control.
Yeah, and we're at a point now too where, you know, as these conversations progress, they've been very small. We're gonna, as we start to maybe rule out some ideas, maybe rule in some possibilities for future discussion, Jamie and Adam will be included on those to represent the board as capital projects. So.
Yep. The only other thing, no formal report, but we will have some additional policies that we're still working through that are really the legislative updates that'll be on the agenda in September and October. So it'll be a rolling year of policies this year. Consent agenda. Anything that needs to be removed, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Coons to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second by Alaska. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Action items, second reading of board policies 101.1 vision statement and 101.2 mission statement. We went through these that were presented earlier by the administration. We went through them last month for first approval. They're a lot easier to say than the ones that are currently on the agenda. So I won't mind having
short board meetings.
They might. And I won't trip over my tongue while reading them. So yeah, we talked about, you know, something that's easy to remember is better. And I think these will be easier for people to remember and keep in mind. The other ones are very precise but wordy. So
I'll make a motion to approve second reading of board policies 101.1, the vision statement, and 101.2, the mission statement.
motion by Luska, second by Wolf. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for the admin team who worked to get input and get these revised. And we're supposed to do it about every 5 years, and it was due. So next up is first reading of board policies 804.5 staff prescription medication supply and 804.5 E1 the release form. Josh, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So these are new policies that I believe in June, right, Tim, that were, I think the IASB had generated regarding, I think some of it came about from the opioid epidemic and including Narcan or naloxone or other opioid antagonists. for those emergency purposes. I know back in the spring, Amy had approached me. She had been talking with someone about the possibility of getting some for free Narcan that we would have on hand across the district in case the student, a parent, or a community member may have had an overdose of some sort, and we have that on hand. I know through that conversation and that generated based on this policy, just a conversation or to re-enter into a conversation about epinephrine auto-injector or EpiPen, as well as the bronchodilator, pediatric doses or adult doses. Bonnie and Amy and I visited a few times, and in regards to the policy, and especially kind of looking at the prescriptions that an EpiPen might require or a bronchodilator might require. And in some instances, you know, when you look at, as we've talked, when you look at getting a prescription and having that on site and then trying to ensure that those are still up to date, and potential costs that might be associated with those, especially with the EpiPen, and then looking at the bronchodilator canister and spacer, what's the cost of that, and prescription, and you know, how often would we really need to use that for emergency purposes? I think we talked a little bit about in some instances we may have an extra bronchodilator on hand, and some kids, I forgot it and I use the one that we have on site. That wouldn't be necessary for that purpose. It would be really for the purpose of emergency. So Annie and Bonnie are both here. If there are any questions just from their perspective of what the impact these types of policies would have.
Yeah, and just build off that, yeah, the IASB updated their recommended policy in June, after having gone through consultations with Iowa Department of Public Health, the Iowa Department of Education, and I'm going to screw up the name of the Iowa School Nurses Association, but it's not that. It's something different, because it seems like it should be that, but it's the letters are mixed up. But it's that group, which you guys probably belong to. But they were involved in apparently rewriting it this spring, and it's been it's significantly different than it was. The sample policy is significantly different than when Josh originally pulled it off of the IASB website, and then so I think, you know, I think for us right now the conversation surrounds, you know, this is not a requirement. The law does not require us to stock these. It is a question of, from a precaution standpoint, do we want to have these available on site, so as not to have to wait for emergency response folks to get there in the event of an emergency. I think that's, particularly living in a town where the ambulance is not right next door, it's something I think it's worthwhile considering with those emergencies. And I don't know if you guys have anything you wanted to share from a perspective standpoint before we start opening it up for questions and discussion, or if not.
Questions for us?
Well, I would say, I mean, with the policy update, what's your thoughts on having the Narcan and all that other stuff here readily available? Is it something you think we should have on hand, and the need is there?
So what a lot of people don't know is anybody in this room could walk up to a pharmacy and say they want a dose of Narcan to have on hand, and you don't need a prescription for it.
Okay.
So that was my initial take of like, wow, you know, they're really trying to protect people, and this would be a good idea. Carrie, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She was the one that came in and talked to me. You can get it, you know, through the state. They'll give you so many doses, you know, per buildings, those sorts of things. So I thought, wow, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, I don't need a prescription for it. For me, the hesitation on the EpiPens has always been that you have to get a physician and you have to do that, and just the liability piece. It looks like there's a really nice kind of release of liability that people would have to sign, but you would also have to have either everybody sign that or a list that doesn't, because if I sign it, but Bonnie doesn't for her kid, and Levi comes in, I'm not authorized to give that. Parents have not given consent. So that's kind of a logistical piece that I think we would have to work through. I did reach out to a local physician and just asked about what that looks like. And he does it for a neighboring district. So said he would, you know, check with his office manager to see what all that entailed. There is a EpiPen for schools site where you could get 4 EpiPens, which would work out perfectly for our district. And those would be covered. And then if they're used, you contact them. The other thing is though, is that there's there's an EpiPen Junior for kids, and then there's the EpiPen. So if we were going to stock both, that would be a cost to the district. EpiPens can be like $600 a piece. So again, I don't know, that's something we could definitely look into. The bronchodilators is kind of a newer thing. As far as I'm concerned, but they actually just got a thing from Melissa Walker from the Department of Ed, actually just said they're working on a program and hope to roll that out in February about how to get those into schools. Because I tried to look, I was on the asthma allergy site, I could not find where you could get those for the schools. So I think that one's a little bit up in the air. Again, you always want to protect everybody that you can. We do stock Benadryl, which has always been our first line of defense. So I'll tell you that even kids who have known allergies and have EpiPens, usually what we do is we give the Benadryl, we don't give their Epi. And since I've been here, I'm starting my 10th year here. We've had 2 instances that we've had kids that have had exposures, because it can happen at any time. Any of us could have an allergy at any time. They were treated with Benadryl and, sent on for further evaluation. So, I guess it's kind of a, what do you want us all to take on sort of thing.
So you've never given an EpiPen?
I've never given an EpiPen even to kids that have known allergies. I got to knock on some sort of something.
So some of these kids carry it with them, like in a bag or a backpack?
Yeah, most of them do now. I mean, the younger kids and the middle school kids, I usually have them in the office. The older kids, the older kids usually have them in their bags because they're going to sports, they're going to activities, they're doing whatever. And again, they're really expensive. So if we know they have them on them in a backpack, or they're supposed to be on them in a backpack, then that's what we go by. So
How long, what's the shelf life on those?
the EpiPens are usually like a year. They say that, and some of the parents have said, I've had expired EpiPens, but as long as they're not cloudy and they're still clear, they've been instructed that they could still use them.
But I don't feel
yeah.
like as a district, we could have an expired medication.
No.
No.
Like our job,
That's
if it's
a
expired, yes.
There was
But usually like a year. I mean, they usually get them right before school starts, and then they expire like that next September or.
I think EpiPens are 12 to 18 months from manufacturer.
Yeah.
So probably 12 months by the time they actually get to you.
Right.
Yeah.
I look at these like AEDs, you know what I mean, how often you use them,
Right.
but when you use them, you know what I mean, like, I mean, this is how I'm thinking about this, so. You have a kid, the kids die of asthma. That's not like unheard of, and so, I'm just thinking. I would be more interested in finding out costs and people replacing and doing those things, finding out whatever they have in because, right, you're right, probably never use it.
Right.
But you don't ever want to be where you're like, wish I had it. You know what I mean? And so I think it's one of those, like, it's a hard thing. How do you get consent? How do you know what I mean? All those things are difficult. But in the grand scheme of saving someone's life, consent kind of goes out to you know what I mean? Even though, you know what I mean, scary, right? Your license, but at that point in time, where you're gonna be like, oh, my license, you know what I mean? You're probably gonna try to save this life. So that's kind of how I look at this. You know what I mean? Now, if it's $10,000 and the EpiPen, these things become difficult. If it's an EpiPen that we can change out every 4 years for free, you know what I mean? Those sort of things are at least something that we have to be cognizant of, because with these treatment allergy years, everybody has, it's at least worthwhile to me to at least investigate what it's going to cost us, and then really find out if there's districts who piloted this and how they're giving consent, and because you're right, how am I going to be, how many 1,500 kids? Right. I don't know who is and who isn't, you know what I mean? And that's going to be a difficult thing to get a hold of. And if we can find someone else who's already sort of built this bridge,
And like, that's exhibit one is what the recommended form is. The question is, how do you, I think it's like, you know, it's another form you need parents to fill out, right? It's like, can I give the kid Tylenol at school? I gotta fill that form out. So yes, I can do it. So I think it becomes another hassle for, you know, for administration. I think the other issue is as we start the school year, we've missed all the registration windows. So if we implement this where we're at right now, there's going to be a chasing aspect of it in terms of trying to push it out to parents and say, you know, we need you to fill this out and send it back. So.
Well, and then is this something we can just add wording to the same consent form we have, or does it have to be a whole separate form?
It's, the state is proposing a whole separate
So
form.
it has to be a whole, but can we
Because
just we add the form to all the other things that parents go through when?
I think for next year, you could, I think for this year, it's scary.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, obviously, right, I can't guarantee this isn't gonna be your 11th year without, right? But, you know, these things don't happen frequently. I think it's worthwhile for us to spend a year, it's a brand new policy, seeing what other districts do, investigating this.
It's not it's an updated policy.
Right.
I think they've added the Brockwell inhaler and it changed the wording on it.
Sure, it's new wording in medicines and so what have people done? How have they handled consent? How have they handled some of these situations?
The EpiPen portion has been around for a while. That came into law when Branstad was still governor, so it's been like 8 years.
Right.
Since that went in place.
Yeah, so I mean, school districts are gonna have ideas how to do that, you know what I mean? And I agree with you, we're chasing right now. And chasing is always hard. When parents have to do everything at once, it's pretty successful. If they have to add on, I think it would only potentially be even more difficult to figure out who does and who doesn't. I don't know how anybody else feels. I mean, I think it's an important policy to entertain, but how to implement it, I don't know. The day 5 days before school starts, you know what I mean? It might
the way that we have to approve the new added language to update the policy.
Well, we don't have, no, this would be a new policy for our district. So right now there is no policy on these.
It's not mandatory.
Not mandatory.
So we did not pick it up when they added the EpiPen 8 years ago, whatever. We did not add this policy in, and we did not consider it when they added the opioid antagonist onto it. So I think it's popping up this year because, you know, there's more districts have been doing it and there's more information out there. And so I think it's one of those things where do we want to consider doing this? If we do, we have a first reading today. Obviously the challenge becomes a second reading and the policy would not go into force for a month when we have our September meeting. So we're going to be into the school year. And so I think the question becomes, is this something we want to do? Is it something we want to implement in the middle of the school year? Is it something we want to implement but delay the start of it and say, you know, effective with the start of next school year, you know, and delay the groundwork for it to be in place and maybe allow some one-offs, like if there's kids that you're particularly concerned about, you know, maybe you selectively roll it out this year and then, or you roll it out in one building this year and then at the other buildings in a subsequent year. I don't know. As I said, I think it's something that was brought to us as a possible for consideration, and then it expanded out to do we want to do EpiPens, do we want to do Brockwell inhalers, which are are new. So
let me ask you guys: if we roll this policy out, you feel prepared to implement it, and or do you think a year of like kind of researching this and going through this process where you feel more comfortable? I know Amy and I talked a couple minutes ago on the football field when we talked about consent and figured out who does it, who doesn't. I mean, I think that's an important part, and I don't think even if we pass it in a month, we're gonna have an idea, you know what I mean? And I know that already brings anxiety, you know what I mean? Like, what if the parents say no, you know what I mean? And so
I mean, like if someone's really having an allergic reaction and you're like, I can't remember if their parents said yes or no.
Right.
You give the epi, their parents said no. I mean, obviously their parents will probably be happy, but like,
Right.
I mean, because you're gonna respond
Right.
to save someone's rather than, oh, where's the paper?
Yeah,
You know, so it's kind of a tricky thing.
I agree, but I mean, I'm gonna lean on your level of comfort of us pushing forward with this.
That's what I would say too.
So even, so the Good Samaritan law doesn't,
It does.
I think it
so
would.
then why,
I think it's-
so why do we need to have consent?
I'm not sure.
Because the state law says we have to get consent.
Yeah, but
It's one of those where the law says this, but if you're acting on good faith, then you don't, I mean, it's like a double weirdness.
And I think the difference here would be from a Good Samaritan law standpoint. It's not me walking up to you on the sidewalk and trying to give you CPR. It's within the confines of a government organization where the kids are, you know, so it's more like. You do want to run into the issues of licensure and what you're authorized to do, what you're not authorized to do, and so there is more burden on it. But I do agree. I'm just worried about pushing it out in the middle of the year. I think it's something we want to consider doing. I'm worried about dumping it on you, particularly since there's training requirements that have to be done. And I'm assuming, you guys aren't in every building, so, I'm assuming that there's the two of you plus 4 additional people, one in each building for the event that you're not there when it needs to happen. They have to be identified and trained, and that's going to happen before we start putting the drug in place to be used. So I don't think this is a 30-day rollout sort of thing. And I think that's the piece that makes me a little bit nervous. I think it's good. I think the question is, how do we want to push forward? And we do have the choice. We do not have to do all 3 medications. We could say we just only want to do the opioid antagonists and call it, we can just do the EpiPen. We don't have to do all 3 of these. We can select which ones we're going to do, and for the second reading, the updated policy would reflect only that which we're going to include. So
I did also have a question. So that second sentence on that says the district supplies the following prescription medications for life-threatening incidents. So like, I'm just afraid parents would read that and go, oh, I don't have to send my EpiPen in. I mean, I feel like it should say, kids with known allergies still need to provide their own EpiPen or something. Because we're not just having these for the kids that we already know have an allergy. This is for people who don't have a known allergy. And I don't know if you can change this piece of paper. This is like when it's
No,
I mean,
it could be
it's a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
Could be for the purpose of emergency situation.
Yeah,
Yep.
where your EpiPen's not provided.
Well, you're talking with kids, right? So, I mean, kids don't bring a library books, but.
Well, I mean,
But I mean, honestly,
for
they
making
have
sure
it.
kids known allergies, we have their emergency medicine, and I feel like we're pretty good about doing that, and the parents are good about providing. I feel like this district has pretty responsible. It's great.
But to Zach's point, if you look at the 3rd paragraph, the 2nd paragraph, of the bullet points, there is that, it does clearly state in there.
Okay.
It's not the Good Samaritan, but the law does exempt as long as you're acting in good faith. That there's no liability that the district or its employees incur. So being that that's in the official language, I'm sure it's in the law somewhere. So
So if that's the case, why do they have to sign that? Like, so if
This
they
is
sign it, then they're saying we're not gonna incur, but if they said, yes, we've got permission versus, no, we don't have, that's, I think, logistically just trying to figure that piece out.
I think it's a good question. I think that my read of that sentence is that it's basically putting them on notice. So we're maintaining this. We're not going to intentionally provide this to your student. But if your student's in the middle of emergency and in our best medical judgment,
you weren't actually having a food allergy, but in good faith, I gave you the epi because you were having trouble breathing. That's what
because I went through all the training and I know what I'm doing, and it's just, you presented as if you're having a food allergy, and we did the best. We made the best decision. I think that's a question we could ask ISB to get clarification on. So.
And then just to go back to the bronchodilators, me personally, I don't feel super comfortable having just albuterol as the main one that you use. Oh, a kid comes in, they're in respiratory distress, no history of any breathing problems that I know of, and I'm gonna give them an albuterol treatment, like, that's me becoming the doctor, like, I don't know what's wrong with them. I feel like that's not something that I should be making a decision about. If they're in severe respiratory distress, we'll get the emergency equipment and call 911. Rather than, oh, I wonder if they have asthma or if they have this or that, and then deciding to give them albuterol when maybe that was not the correct thing to do and putting them more at risk.
And I guess
that's.
And I'd rely on you guys, there's some prescriptions in here about specific trainings that have to be. That anybody that's gonna administer under this policy, whether it's the school nurse, that we'd have to figure out how those trainings are gonna occur, because I think there's some that are prepared, but they have to be done under the auspices of an MD that goes to or other licensed individuals. So there may be some additional questions on exactly that, because in theory, I would hope that the training is going to say this is when to do it versus not. But again, it's a very dynamic situation when you're in it, and
a lot of it relies back on the medication administration course through the state. That's very basic. Like, this is how you give an inhaler. They have to wait a minute in between each puff. They have to breathe it. I mean, so it doesn't tell you though, like, these are the reasons why they may need it. It just shows you how to use it. So I don't know that this training would be any different.
Yeah, I don't know. As I said, I think we have to look more in what that specific training is, because it does call out that whether it is just administration versus when to administer. Right.
This is how I feel, and I want to support you guys 100%. I think there are more questions than answers right now. You know what I mean? And I don't want to handcuff you with a policy, if you know what I mean, without a better understanding from our district. And it's not that you know what I mean, like, you're going to call 911, you're going to do your best clinical judgment, you know, and that's what we've done forever. And so I think this is a move we need to make. I'm just not sure we have enough information right now to do a good job to support you or the students or families of our district until we find out more information. Like, what is the training? What, you know, I mean, what clinical, you know, are they just choking on something? And that's why, you know, I mean, there's a variety of different things why they might. And so my personal feeling is we need to look further into this. I think it's a great policy. I want to do it, but I also want to do it right. And I feel like now you guys are going to be scrambling to get trained and get medicine. I think if we sit down in the summer next year and look at this policy before we start, or whenever parents have to sign.
If we're going to move forward with this, I would want to move forward because there's going to be a rampant, and I would assume that if we approved it in January, it might be ready by the time we leave for the summer, and then, you know, trainings could happen over the summer and whatnot. You know, we can kind of set that, but, you know, knowing what that timeline is, as I said, I worry we'll have a rushed implementation, and I don't want to put our staff in a spot where they're. I think
if we just put it back on in January to revisit, that gives us plenty of time, right? Or February.
Yeah, we can refer it back to the policy committee to help with the administration to gather more information and then report back in January.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's just what legally, right? Like, how do we get medicines, right? How do we get consent? I think those are the three big ones.
Well, if we waited until next year, couldn't that go into the power school? Couldn't it be?
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go with this. We had to put another checkbox.
Right. And really from there, you know, if somebody was adamant about not signing it, that would be a much shorter list.
Are you guys comfortable if we? Okay.
So I can make
And I think Narcan's great. Like, it saves people's lives, so I think that's a good policy. Or good medication.
And that's the other thing is we could move forward with just the Narcan and refer the other ones back, because I think the Narcan is less. Still needs the signatures, right? That's the problem. Yeah.
I don't know about the consent piece. I would have to ask Carrie. She was willing to come in and do training for anyone that needed to. And then, and the other thing to consider too is like our first responders, so like in Johnson County, they carry at least 2 doses of Narcan in all of their vehicles.
Yeah.
And we do know how quickly they come, so I don't think it's, I'm not that I don't want it, I'm the one that presented it to begin with, but I'm just saying.
Right.
We're more likely to get Narcan than we are to get Epi.
Okay.
On scene, but, I mean, I'm happy to look into that piece. She was, like I said, she was willing to come and do training. I talked with Josh previously about kind of having emergency response teams for each building. So like those that are willing to be CPR trained, those that are willing to supply meds, those are, you know, to do that extra training. Just because again, we do go between buildings, other staff go between buildings, and just having at least, you know, some people that are willing and want to do it, not that you have to do it, because that's a lot to take on. But I personally would love if everyone was CPR trained, but it's just a logistical a lot. So, you know, we could definitely work on that too, identifying people per building and reaching out and seeing who would be, and then knowing who we're going to train, and, you know, doing it more thoughtfully than reactively. But.
We resurfaced that as an administrative team.
Okay. And that goes along too with like the Stop the Bleed training and kind of all of those kind of wrapped up into one.
So we change that yet? It seems
January.
Motion by Wolf to table till January.
Second.
Second by Coons. All those in favor of tabling till January, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you for helping moving the discussion along.
I think it's gonna be a really good policy.
Next up on the agenda is nutrition, waiving the fees for student breakfast. We did this last year.
This would be the full year, right?
The budget and finance people have looked at the proposal and have no concerns over the ability to. I think the thing we just want to be clear on is this is not a permanent change. At this point, we're looking at it year by year based on budget, and always the concern is if we do it enough years in a row, then it becomes an expectation. I think we can definitely afford to do it another year. We'll look more at the budget. Cassie and I are going to meet with folks after the year-end budgets close. When we get to October, we're going to look at some of the special funds and look at their budgets and where they're headed. So
this comes out as fun.
Nutrition. And it has a healthy balance of we have limited things we can spend it on.
Right.
So I'll make a motion to approve nutrition. We were going to waive fees for student breakfast for this year.
2023-2024 school year. Motion by Alaska. Second by Coons. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Legislative priorities. We all did our nice little things and sent them to Chris, and she summarized the consensus, and there wasn't a lot of disparity this year. Student achievement, accountability, mental health, local accountability, decision-making, and teacher leadership.
And supplemental state aid.
Yep, and supplemental state aid were the ones that were identified.
Motion to approve the legislative priorities, student achievement and accountability, mental health, local accountability and decision making, teacher leadership, and supplemental state aid.
Second.
Motion by Alaska, second by Wolf. Any discussion? And this will go to the state, and they will, Iowa Association of School Boards, and they will fold it in with everybody else from across the state, and then they will come up with the 3 or 4 legislative priorities that will be discussed at the delegate assembly in November. Speaking of which, if you haven't gotten back to Chris on your availability to go to the meeting in November, you should do it because it's almost time to register. So, informational items.
We need to vote, didn't we?
Oh, did we vote?
You did, didn't you? Did they vote?
Did we vote? It's late in the day.
Yes, you did.
I thought we voted.
You did.
I thought we were talking after we finished.
You did.
voting. Informational items, video
Yeah.
stream, Davis.
So, started coming about video streaming during COVID with fans and all that stuff, and we continued it. And Casey's done a great job of even making it. I mean, our basketball and football games, we have a actual video streams where there's announcers, and we get some pretty good people on the color and all that stuff. It's a pretty good gig, and we get sponsors for those events. We do have a subscription. It's a mixed bag as far as, some districts, if we're on the road, we discover, hey, we can just log on and not subscribe. Others are minimal fee for subscription, things like that. So before we get too far into this year, I asked Casey to be here too to answer any questions. As a district, as a board, what do we want to do with our video streaming? Do we the whole question is, do we charge a little bit of something along with our sponsors that do the programming? Do we just open it up for free, let the sponsors take care of it? Kind of where do we want to go as a board, as a district?
Casey, how many people do you know numbers that?
Yeah, so we did a mixed bag last year, it was, for football, I don't know if I did the year-long subscription, but for basketball, I guess the intent of charging for me isn't necessarily to generate as much revenue as I'm getting. So with sponsors last year, I didn't go hard after sponsorships. I kind of just sent some emails and said, hey, if you want to be a part of this, is what you get. And I think I got 6 of them, and it was around $4,500 for sponsorships. And what that got them was, it got them on every stream we do. So the only streams we charged for was football and basketball that we had announcers for. Everything else, we just turned the stream on. It was free. There's a setting in there. I pay a little extra so I could control that. And then in the winter, for all of our local people, we did like a $25 subscription for the whole winter. So if you pay $25, in order to do this through their system, you have to have an account. So it's not like, hey, you got an activity to pass through me, you could just log on. No, they still have to go through Huddle TV. It was owned by Blue Frame, it was a third party, and then Huddle bought Blue Frame. So now it's Huddle TV. Where they're trending is Huddle TV wants you to have a subscription eventually, and it's going to be a monthly subscription that you would pay to them. And if I understand them correctly, you would get different games. So you could watch Mount Vernon play West Delaware if you have that subscription. It's a lot like Flow Wrestling. If you have it, you can get it, and then they kick back to the schools. So when we talk in the WAMAC, I think there's 4 of us maybe that charge. West Delaware would charge, but their radio does theirs and just gives them a kickback. They don't have anything to do with it. They just get a kickback for it. And then there's a few others that say they'd like to charge, but they haven't since COVID, and now they don't know how to start. So there's just a couple different perspectives on what you want out of your stream. I know if it was free, I'd get way more viewers and we'd be way more apt to get sponsorship. Where I hesitate with free is I know it costs butts in the seats, and more than the money, I want people watching our kids play the games. I know when it was free for football, and that was following COVID, but personally, a lot of people that I know that always came to the games, they were sitting in garages together watching the football stream and texting me during the game that they were in their garage watching a free stream. We have businesses that play it, while our kids are playing. There's people sitting in businesses watching the games. And then when your visitors come, so for them, I've set the screen price at $10, and it's a $6 ticket to get in. So it's still cheaper than 2 people coming to the game to get to watch, whether it's your niece or nephew or whatever. So I'm sure we've all been there where you're thinking you want to go to a game, and then there's a free live stream, and you're like, well, it's really easy just to sit home and watch this. And it's just one of those things that I definitely see both sides of it. I think that our sponsors, we'd be able to get more, and they'd really appreciate it because our viewership would go through the roof. But really right now, all we're charging for is football, basketball. And with the subscription fee, you know, I was thinking football this year, we have 5 home games. You know, you charge $20-25 for all of our local people or grandparents in Florida. You're not paying them $10 a game, but they still have some skin in the game.
Do we know how many people have been on average live streaming?
Yeah,
What we have been doing, like how many people on average have been doing it?
Yeah, so I'd say for basketball night, so that $10 gets 3 games that happen in the competition gym. We'd probably be like around 100 people. Now, most of those people have subscriptions. But I mean, I can print out every single person that's ever bought a ticket or a subscription through the system. Football, you know, I think we peak at 250 maybe, 200, 250.
That by the season video.
Total that would watch a game.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So is that 250 more people that are not in the stands watching our kids? That's
counting one person watching.
exactly, that's what I mean.
And the way this is set up, I've talked to Huddle about it. If one login, there can be 3 streams going at the same time. So if you bought a $10 ticket and wanted to try it, you know, you can probably get 3 streams off of that. So yeah, just the convenience fee. I mean, Huddle's expensive. The equipment that we purchased is expensive. You're asking people to do that job. You know, I think we've all talked about this, like eventually if we could have it somehow where kids are involved in running our live stream, that would be ideal. Right. There's different schools like Mount Vernon's, they do theirs free, but they bring in, I want to say he said that they brought in close to 40,000 in their sponsorships.
You would say I've watched it's constant advertising stuff going on.
And they have their Mustang Vision, so their booster club actually helps them. They have 2 people on their booster club that go get all their sponsorship dollars, and then they have people designated to it, so he doesn't touch that live stream in a night event. So yeah, I guess I definitely see the positives to both. Making it free, I think, with a lot of viewers. I don't know for certain if it's going to cost us butts in the seat, but I feel pretty strongly that it does.
One, I mean, revenue is great, but our kids are supposed to be our focus. And so if we have them available to whoever, what is our focus? Making money for our kids. And I think the best thing for our kids is to have people there in the stands supporting our kids. I understand they're, you know, grandparents in Florida or something, they can't be here, but I would much rather have people at football stadium than Bucks and Big Grove watching it. It's great for the businesses in town, but that's not good for our kids.
Casey, is it possible for me, Joe Schmo, to get a subscription for the fall football and give that subscription to grandma in Florida? Grandma doesn't have to sign up for it.
They would have to log in to your
under my credential stuff.
You said there's 3 logins for.
Yeah, and they were trying to tighten that up. I think they were working on that. I don't know if they got it done yet.
Well, and I just say that because, hey, I'm going to go to the game. Grandma can't.
Right.
I'll just buy it for grandma.
Yeah, we had quite a few people this winter, players and parents that are at every game.
Yeah.
That bought the subscription, and I'm assuming they gave it to a grandparent. Probably help them get set up in there so they can watch it. And that's important, you know, like if you can't come to the game or you're a parent that's working out of town, sure. Like I want to keep that reasonable for you. It's just what is reasonable to me. $25 for the whole winter, like that's a lot of games that happen in that gym. To me, that's reasonable.
Does that include wrestling too? Is it
wrestling? I just turn on.
You just turn that on.
Yeah,
and
everything else, there's a setting I pay a little bit more to Huddle, so I can control it. If you don't do that, then they set the price for you, so you can't do promo codes or subscriptions.
So when we have our big Saturday tournament with 20 teams that come in to wrestle, you can just flip that on, and I can sit at home, anybody can sit at home and watch that. It's not going to be commentated, but the vision, and you can watch the matches all day long.
Yeah. And baseball, softball's coming. I think by next year that Huddle's gonna be ready to support baseball, softball. So really that'll cover most of our stuff. Now, I've been on Huddle a little bit to get those Huddle focus cameras in our middle school and auxiliary gym. Anytime we do middle school events, which we do wrestling over at high school, we put that camera on, we flip it on for junior high football. And those are all, that's all free. Like, we don't, I mean, we could make a lot more money, but we're still scrolling our ads for those. So that is still advertising probably to your sponsors, because
Do you have ads for this fall already?
I was waiting until we kind of figure out
So you could tell the advertisers what we're doing.
because some of them ask, is this a free stream?
Oh, sure.
And I think I've had one person ask that, and it hasn't been, so I explained to them what we do, and they're great with it, but.
We talked about the possibility of adding it to like a family pass when you purchase one. But what was the biggest reason why that would be?
Because they're still gonna have to log into
And pay with a credit card.
and put their information into Hubble. So they can get their login and all that information.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, part of high school is the experience of going to these events, and I don't think $25 is prohibitive. I know my parents were wild, Billy in Washington State would love to pay $25 so much my kids want. You know what I mean? So I agree with you. Having coached for a long time, like, there's not as much people in the stands as there used to be. You can make a lot of praise. We were winning state championships, so we can do some of that stuff when I first started, so maybe that was it or whatever. But I don't want to take away from these young students who put a lot of time in, put a lot of effort in to do what they do, and to allow to have people come support them in person is way more valuable to me than to have a bunch of guys drinking beer in their garage. To be honest with you, you know what I mean? And that's just my philosophy, and it's not just sports. The music's at halftime, and I'm sure they run through that too, right? At halftime, do they cut or do they stay?
We're working on it follows them, but it struggles to pick up the sound of the band because we have the headsets on. So we did, after our first game, someone said something to me, so then I had Blake was announcing, we had him stick his headset out, you could hear it, it's not great,
right?
But at least it was picking up some.
But
that's just another technology piece that they've been working on to try to get sound down on the field. They're just not there yet.
Okay.
So I think some of the feedback relates to grandparents. It's like, trying to explain to grandparents why when their kid goes to West Delaware, they can watch the game for free, but if they want to watch them play at home, then they've got to pay $25 to watch them for the seasons. So I think that's where some of the community input comes in. It's just, as Casey said, there's a disconnect because there's a lot of districts that never went to charging when we roll out of COVID. We had switched models, and we're kind of an outlier, so it's easier for our families who can't make it to games to watch their kids on the road than it is for them to watch them when they play at home. So that's some of the feedback that I've heard. I agree, it's better if you can get people there. I think the question is, what is the model that works best? Because as Casey said, those parents are buying them and they're at every game. They're not the one using the tickets. So I think the question is how to set up a system that works to get both people in the stands, but also provides our students with the exposure to their friends and family who can't make it to the games.
Yeah, a lot of it's the visitor crowd. You're getting those people that stay home. If I'm averaging 20 people that are buying a $10 ticket coming down from Independence, that's $200 that we now have that we didn't before. So do we want to make it free for everybody or not? Like I said, I see both sides of it. This model works. I know I get gripes sometimes too that we charge and other people don't.
Well, you just tell me that my kids for it. Well, I mean, I just, that's how I see it. And I understand why some people may feel that way, but
is there kind of a consensus that, you know, charging a little bit gonna be okay? Or,
Well,
Is there a way to charge businesses more?
No, but not in the sign up, like they aren't gonna know that they're a business in there. I will make sure that those businesses are, you know, I'm gonna stress to them that they're a live stream sponsor at least, you know, so I charged for sponsorship, it was $650, got you the whole year, everything we did, stroll, we tried to announce them a few times. And then I had one group, Green State did just the winner, and that was $350.
I'm sure those businesses are violating the terms and conditions for the huddle if they're showing it at a business, but you know.
Well, and still all of that is what hurts our kids. Cause from when I moved here and my daughter's been in band, so I've been at football games for however many years that's been, 13 years or something. When that stadium was built, it was packed full and it just isn't anymore. And it's really disappointing that's, and I mean, live streaming, if your friends alone are in the garage watching it instead of here to support our kids. And that's what football, that's what all of the high school sports and activities are supposed to be about, is supporting our kids. So the live stream in general, I understand the grandparents part of it and the people that can't get here part of it, but it hurts our kids. So I guess I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think it could be free.
What do you think would be reasonable, or what would your recommendation be? You know, fall and a winter package, or just do an all year package, you know, for our Solon residents to keep it.
Well, is there a reason you couldn't do a $25 all year? Because you're still gonna, you know, you're still gonna draw the folks who are, well, because football, we don't see a lot of WAMAC opponents in football. Yeah, so it's not like there's a huge value to them to do the $25 year long thing versus doing a one-off or each of the 2 games if they're not going to make it.
Yeah, I guess that's just kind of what I need to know or have guidance on, because I need to call. I don't want to have to set that up for me.
Yeah. And I think, our struggle is this is an informational item night, so we can't really provide any strong guidance. Way it's set up tonight, we can share our individual perspectives.
I would not be opposed to charging.
No.
We're not, I mean,
I wouldn't be opposed to the fee being equal to going to the games. I know that seems like a lot, but if the grandparents were coming to the game or if they're watching it, should be the same.
can you stream playoff?
So playoff games are a little different. You have to pay the state a pretty hefty amount.
they don't, yeah.
Well, the Boys Association charges a hefty amount.
Yeah. The girls have a little loophole in there that if you have your students run it, they'll waive that fee, but I don't think you can charge for that stream. So it's just it's a net loss for streaming that game.
So is it the whole season, or is there a way to set it up that you can buy a package of 5 games? If you can watch any 5 games that you want, you get 5 games. Or 10 games, or is there a way to
set it up however, like, they would set it up however you want it, but for last year, you know, when I did that in the winter, it was at the very beginning of that, it was like $25 gets you every basketball game that happens in the competition. Everything else was already free for the rest of the year. And the amount of $25 subscriptions that came in were a lot. And then from there, each game, you know, I get an email, so-and-so paid $10 for this game. You know, so you get another 20 people a night that are buying the stream.
The ideal way would be to be able to geofence it and charge a fee based on where you live. If you live in Florida and you buy a subscription you pay, you pay
Yeah.
a minuscule amount because you're not coming to the game anyway. It's like baseball's blackout. It's like, if we want you to show up at the game.
Trust me, I was fine with
Because, that would be the ideal thing, because,
Right.
because that's the question, how do we balance? Because, the parents, the grandparents who are in Arizona or Florida are not gonna make it to a basketball game.
Right.
But, all Casey's friends who are hanging out drinking beer, they're my neighbors. I have my neighbors too. Yeah, so.
Well, right, it's not just your friends.
Well, I know, and I know it happened during COVID in our neighborhood. They got together when the stream was free during COVID, as we rolled off of COVID, they were, I'd leave for the games and I'd come back and they're still drinking, drinking beer, and when I get back.
Now they're in the habit of that instead of coming to
Yeah.
the games, and
Yeah.
how do we get people to come back to the game instead of sitting somewhere chugging here?
So I know
I'm okay doing a false winner, if that's easy, if that's what you think works better, right? If you pack it, you can game by game. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think number one goal is just, and that's what we always try to do, how do we get more people to the games, so, that's.
I think the board is.
Games are more fun.
eliminating the streaming would get more people there, but I think that's off the table.
And you've done a good job with promotions, little kid cheer, little kid basketball, or this night or that night. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say this, like, we travel, we had like youth basketball stuff. Sometimes you have a league night that coincides with what a varsity games, you're not gonna be there. There were parents from Solon that were sitting there watching the game. So streaming is very nice to have. Those parents that are busy or people that travel. I was in Des Moines one night and watched the game when I had a work function, it's nice.
Yeah.
So we don't want to give it up, but yeah, certainly I think paying more is okay. Well, the other thing we don't have either is radio. Like I grew up in all that radio and stuff. So yeah, I mean, you couldn't be there, you could listen, but appreciate having this to be able to watch.
Okay, if there's nothing else on that one. Board learning. I tried sending it to Josh. I don't know if it got to him. Because I realized I sent it to Davis, who's not sharing, so.
Send it to me.
Yeah, I tried to.
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Casey.
Otherwise, we have to switch to Davis's computer.
How much money did we get?
We didn't do quite as good as last year, but pretty good. Pretty close. We've had really, really good years.
Yeah. This sure was like amazing.
Otherwise, Davis, do you think we can do it without showing it? Can you
Maybe.
walk us through it without, because I don't think this one's that complicated.
Yeah.
We could do it without the
Yep. So this one has the board discussion. Going to talk about what are the district's main priorities from the perspective of the people at your board table. This is at the board table, will help you think about, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Priorities. Why priorities? There's a limited amount of time for board to work. The board cannot learn about and provide support for everything. An important part of board leadership is providing focus and direction for district work. The superintendent has a finite amount of valuable leadership time. It is important for the superintendent to hear the board talking about and coming to consensus around what it believes would provide the most value-added contribution to the district in order that the superintendent can provide professional perspective to the discussion. There are limited district resources, as Gary Sinclair, a financial planning service director, likes to say, we can do everything we want to as a district. We just can't do, we can do everything we want. We just can't do, we can do everything. We can do anything we want. We just can't do everything we want. So in other words, decisions have to be made based on priorities. So imagine you've been given a magic $100 bill. It will produce great benefits for your district. It will allow your district to make great strides in school improvement in a given area. It will buy you a great deal more than the actual amount in time, energy, materials, motivation for good work. But there's strings attached, as always. Rule 1, this is individual work, so each of you will think about those priorities individually. Do not discuss your choices at the time. Rule 2, you must acknowledge that the great benefit in this area will only come at a cost to other areas. So, for example, solid fiscal security might mean making cuts in programming or staff. It may mean delaying some purchases or updating of equipment. If you are about to visit the school budget review committee, this priority still may have great appeal if you already have a 10% fiscal solvency ratio, perhaps not. Rule number 3, you may spend all of your money in one place on one priority, or you may spend $80 on one priority and $20 in another area. These are your only two options. All on one or 80-20 split. The money may not go more than 2 areas or be allotted any other amounts than the 80-20 split or a single item. Rule 4, you may choose from among the following list of areas. Please do not individually or be prepared. Please do so individually, your list, and be prepared to defend your allocation in 2 sentences. Refer to your district mission and prepare this defense. Note, you have the option of creating a new priority or additional ones, but only one. Okay, here are the choices. What's that? Okay. You might want to write, I can flash them or may have to write them down. 1 is increase course offerings and programming. Here, Jamie. Okay.
How many are there?
5.
Oh no. 1, 2, 3,
7, I think.
4, 5, 6, 7.
I might be able to do 7.
Yeah. Increase course offerings and programming to meet the wide variety of individual need. Number 2, informed community engagement with and knowledge of the school district's needs and strengths. Put your money towards that. 3, solid fiscal security. So we have increased course offerings, inform and community engagement, solid fiscal security. 4 is quality PD, focused on improving instruction. 5 is infrastructure, buildings, buses, equipment, updating air conditioning units, a zippy new track. That's what they have written down. A zippy new track.
The Adam Bluskin.
Yeah. Zippy. Technology. So increasing the use of tech. And then choice. I'll go through them one more time real quick. Let's summarize them. Increase course offerings and programming. Community engagement and information. Fiscal security. Quality PD for instruction. Infrastructure. Technology or choice. So all on one, 80-20.
Get time to think.
That's number 4 again.
Yeah.
Quality PD.
Quality PD for instruction.
Okay.
And
Or we can go out on our own, right?
as a reminder, our mission is now to engage every student in opportunities to learn, lead, and grow is now our mission.
engage every student in opportunities to learn, lead, and grow.
So I'm gonna say 80 for May would be the first.
80 for course
Course
offerings.
offerings. And then I'm probably thinking 20 of PD.
Why?
Well, I
This
think
is those two sentences you had to come up with.
so. We've kind of had this talk, right, with what we're kind of expanding.
Yeah.
Just even the college courses and developments for our teachers that they can teach some of those courses for our students. I think it's really valuable. The more that we can add, especially at the high school level, just more for the kids, really, and some of these kids coming out with even having an AA degree, you know, so opportunity and more courses. And the 20% PD was kind of perfect for tonight, right? We look at the appreciation and stuff. That's going to be valuable, what goes back into the classroom and what it kind of adds to our kids. So that's my 80-20.
So I can pick my own though, right?
Yeah.
So I would go 80% student achievement. Like monitoring that what we're
Doing is
doing is effective.
okay.
Okay, and then the second would be that 20% would be the PD, because that's the most important piece to get that information from the teachers.
Monetarily, your choice one, monetarily, what would we spend that on? I mean, specifically, how would that be spent in your eyes?
I think like I think a consistent exam that can monitor student growth.
Like investing in MAP and analyzing that and spending time on that.
Exactly. So that you can actually show student growth or lack of student growth. You know what I mean? So then we know how. Like we're falling short.
Yeah.
And then I could also see other data tools and things and maybe potential help to analyze that data and other
data dashboard that's quick on your
the things that I'm kind of.
Okay, that makes sense.
Jamie?
I think I'm with Adam on definitely the 80% on the course offerings.
Yeah.
I think we need to expand what we're offering for our kids so they have. I mean, when I originally was running for school board, one of my thoughts was when I went to school, we had VOTech, we had classes where kids could work with their hands and you could start working as soon as you got out of school. And I think having more of those things available here on our campus rather than, I know how much money I spent in gas for Milo to go to classes at Kirkwood. And worrying about him driving over Mahaffey Bridge Road in the wintertime and things like that. And so having those things on campus. So I'm 80% there and the PD for instruction. I mean, how are you going to offer more if you don't have personal development and instruction? So it's kind of.
You want 100% infrastructure?
No. 80% salary. 80% president salary. Yeah. You could quadruple my salary and it wouldn't cost you any money. No, I want infrastructure and increased course offerings. I think it touches a little bit on what Jamie was saying, which is we have needs, and as we grow, we're gonna need to be offering a greater variety of things. You know, our district is for a long time, the world narrowed in on college ready. Right. Every student needed to be college ready when they graduated. The world has pivoted back to the reality that there are lots of opportunities in life that do not require a college degree and don't require $100,000 in debt. And as I look at that, you know, I think we need to expand course offerings, the VOTech sort of things. But to do that, there's going to be infrastructure requirements. We are going to have spaces for those to happen, because right now, you know, I could invest in my staff and get people trained to do woodworking and electrical and all these fun things, but I got no place to do it. And so without those spaces, so I think we, you know, from my perspective, it's like we gotta lay the foundation for being able to provide those, because PD is important, but I think we do PD very well, you know. I think last time we did this, I did fiscal stability, because, you know, I don't want us to go broke, but we're in pretty good financial shape. And so I think that's kind of mine.
Yeah.
Now, we do the thing that's where I get to ask the administrators who stuck around, what they would do, and so we'll ask Josh first, because I don't think he's had to do this with us before. So now he hasn't thought about this. He's got to pick two of those areas. If you had control and could do it, where would you invest the money?
Well, after listening to all of you. I think, I think PD, I won't give my split yet. I'll do PD and course offerings. And I probably do an 80-20 split, 80 towards PD and 20 towards course offerings. Because so I get 2 sentences right there.
Yeah, 2 sentences.
So in order to, I mean, if you put more towards course offerings, yes, you can expand, but if you expand too quickly, you potentially could water things down, or you're not doing it well.
No necessity, might get
But if we add those course offerings and we pour for training and professional development and ensure we've got solid pedagogy and using good assessment practices, and we're engaging kids, like Don was saying earlier, in a manner that's really preparing them. That's kind of where I would say, I think that's probably 5 or 6.
It's like a Tim said.
Well, and again,
Lots of semicolons.
But hanging out with Tim too.
we've cycled through this, and it's interesting to hear repeaters because you're different. And I like how they stated at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think to me, being fiscally, sound is always a high priority, but we're in good shape right now.
Right.
So in the immediate, that's not now a priority. And I think that's where you are at. We always want to be in a position where we can always say yes. Hey, can we go to this conference? Yes. Hey, we really need to hire another first grade teacher. Can we? Yes. Can I order these resources? Yes. And we've put ourselves in that position. And then we got to have great facilities. We're in good shape. Our community supports us, and they've given us that. So now I'm to the point too where offerings is very, very important. And if we're gonna, every student means every student. So the career tech route, the 4-year college route, the apprenticeship route, I think that's all great stuff. And then I agree. We returned 16 out of 17 teachers. Why? Because we support their growth as a professional and we help them be successful. So for those reasons, I would say offerings and PD.
Good discussion. Yeah. If I had to make my own choice, since we all can do this, I'll open it up to everybody. What I considered was something I've talked to Josh and Davis about is as we move out of Lakeview with 3rd grade, reimagining what early childhood education is like. We've done the same thing, and we've invested in the high school, we've invested in the middle school, we invested in the culture of SIS when it came online. That early elementary thing is something we really haven't touched in a long time. And I think that's something that isn't a today thing, but is a couple of years out. Maybe if next fiscal year it's a thing to look at and say, once we lose 3rd grade out of this building, what do we want early childhood education? What are other districts doing that's successful? How do we get these kids ready so that they're ready to learn rather than learning to?
What's the timeline for upgrade?
I think we have that
24, 25.
more so 20, 25.
25, 26, because we've got to finish this first.
Yeah.
Right, so you gotta get SIS done.
Right.
Because, yeah, that's right, because we'll move third grade in August 25 and then start in on,
So it's the very last one.
it's the last one.
Well, and so those discussions that you're talking about, we should have before we
Start to remodel.
Yeah.
right, before we don't wanna
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
redo Lakeview and then be like, okay, let's figure out what we wanna do.
That's a good point.
We need to have those discussions before we start remodeling Lakeview.
Yeah, maybe when our elementary principal gets back, can start a discussion on, cause I think it's valuable, because we, you know, everyone else has kind of got the opportunity to figure out what you want to be, and Lakeview's just kind of been, you know, you're the same. Just, you know.
Well, they've had a hard go there as far as just constant change in leadership and, you know, consistent
Some stability
person
there.
eldership and yeah, I think that's a really good point, Jamie, is now's the time to start that work.
Yeah.
You know, I think it must have been something you guys got today, because like 54% of kids, I think is what she said, who started college don't finish it.
Yeah.
I think there's like character drama stuff maybe that we're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, that's, we're costing families money, and I mean, you can put a lot of reasons why this happens, freedom and all sorts of things, but you know, that's probably not a great statistic, and that's nationwide, that's not sure. Yeah, you know, but we're missing both somewhere. 54% of people are gonna spend 20, 30 grand a year and be out by their sophomore year.
I had a friend whose son started college last year and came home for winter break and didn't tell his parents he wasn't going back until the day before they were supposed to move him back into the dorm. So,
So surprise.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, okay. I think good discussion. Talking points. Jamie.
I really like where we're at with staff, that we've got all the positions filled, that we don't have vacancies, and especially with the bus drivers and all the things, really appreciate all the work you put in, Davis, with all of the creative thinking, all the things that you've done to let us add a route instead of being panicked on not having enough drivers. But the fact that all our positions are filled is fantastic.
Yeah, particularly with when I see this in Iowa City, that was still in the news that they were still hiring as of earlier this week. So, Dan.
I think the PLC stuff, you know, that we continue to, you know, reinvest in that after COVID and just, you know, it's like Don said, it's kind of twofold. It's learning and the PLC part. It's also camaraderie and connection. And I think those things, this day and age, are probably just as important. So
That's it, board learning good and done in a while, and good discussion.
And I'll build off of the last one, which is, I think, just good discussion both on policy 804.5 and then the informational item about video streaming and our you know, it's been a while since we've had something where we've just had good discussion on things, because we've been just kind of churning along and been very efficient. And tonight we had an opportunity to have some conversations, as they said in there, you know, having a conversation at the board table provides guidance for the administration in terms of kind of where to head, and it's easier for us to have that here, and it's great when we can have those opportunities. Next regular school board meeting is Thursday, September 21st, 2023, here at 5:30 p.m.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alaska, second by Coons.
You took too long to deep breath.
Yeah. I just thought for some reason I was thinking I was missing something. I was thinking we had something else we needed to do, but I don't think we do. Oh, I know what it was. If we had moved forward with 804.5 and we wanted to implement it before the school year was done, I was going to, before it started, I was going to say we could schedule a special board meeting next week to have the second reading. But since we tabled it till January, we don't need to do that. So all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.